Hello from London, and this is the first of several short weekly updates on my summer language learning project, which is what I've called my language sprint, focusing in on Japanese and Basque for 4 weeks and doing an hour's work on each language each day. First of all, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Gareth Popkins. This channel is all about language learning from many angles. If you haven't yet subscribed for the vibe, please do, and you can get my free webinar training by following the link underneath this video. If you're a regular, you know I've been learning Japanese since January, and I'm trying to get up to a basic level by the time of my first trip to Japan in October. I had been doing half an hour a day, 7 days a week. For this language sprint, I have increased it to an hour a day, 5 days a week. I've been learning Basque for several years now, and I'm at an intermediate level. And I've been having a lesson or two weekly and doing a small amount of study each week during the course of this year so far. But I wanted to increase the work on the Basque as well to an hour a day, 5 days a week. So first of all, I'll say a little bit about what I've been doing with the Basque and some of the interesting methodological questions, I think, which came up for me this week working on the language. I got off to rather a shaky start because I went down on Sunday evening at the beginning of the project with food poisoning. And so I didn't eat anything on Sunday, and that developed actually into a full-scale fast. I decided it would be a big clean break, sort of an interesting psychological, physical experiment on myself. I was going to do it for the first 3 days of last week. In the end, it lasted through to Thursday lunchtime when I had a nice big green salad. And so I was 4 full days without eating. Now, I'm not recommending this to you necessarily. I'm not a doctor. It's something I did, but I'll say a bit more about that later on. First of all, though, the main thing was I really, on Sunday night, because I was ill, wanted to pull out of the Basque lesson I'd got booked on Monday morning. But there was no escape because I'd have lost my money and messed up my attendance record if I had cancelled at the last minute. So sometimes booking in and boxing yourself in with lessons can work really well because you just got to turn up even if you didn't feel like it. You don't feel like it when the time for the lesson comes around. That's a great motivational trick. As it was, fortunately, I felt a lot better on Monday morning, and I had a great lesson with one of my 2 Basque teachers. I had 2 more Basque lessons last week. The second one was with another regular teacher, where I was doing some of the written exercises in one of the books that I use, Bakarka, but I was doing them with Ida verbally during the lesson. Now, in a way, this is not the most efficient way to use time with a teacher because I could have got the same effect, I suppose, by talking into the voice recorder of my phone and then checking against the answers, afterwards. But I find that doing these exercises orally with the teacher provides a way to structure part of the lesson and a sort of regular, rigorous training for me on some of the difficult grammatical structures in the Basque language, of which there are quite a few. So it sort of works after the first half of free conversation in the lesson, which is the way my lessons often go once I get to an intermediate level. The first chunk of it is general catching up and general conversation. Something else I was doing this week with Basque was a dictation exercise using another of the textbooks, Ariane, that I have, where the audio comes with transcripts. So that's a great way of really making you focus in, tune your ear in well, and it flags up words that you don't know, but also the way connected speech, the way words slur and mush into each other in the language works. And one thing that often throws me when I'm doing dictation in Basque is the dropped H's, that in many parts of the Basque country they do not pronounce the letter H, they don't aspirate it as we do, it's rather more as it would be in French, for example. So that was a useful exercise. And finally, I was also doing Goldlisting, which is an interesting method for learning vocabulary. And I've explained how that works. It involves entering items of vocabulary or phrases into a notebook and then at intervals whittling down the number of words that you have left by discarding those that you think that you know. But I'll put a link underneath to the article I wrote on Goldlisting if you want to know more about that. I've never actually used it systematically, and so this is a bit of an experiment for me. Finally, on Thursday, I had a new teacher for Basque, Gary, and I've gone for Gary because I thought it'd be good to have a bit of variety. a different voice, and also to increase the scheduling flexibility that I have with the lessons, because of course not all teachers are available all of the time, and both teachers of the other teachers will be away for periods during the summer. The lesson with him went really well, apart from rather crackly internet at his end. But I booked another lesson with him for this week now, and I hope that the internet is not going to be sort of a deal breaker. We'll see how it goes second time. But it was great to meet him, and although I was going to go on to some work with one of my textbooks with him, the whole of the half hour basically went on free conversation. Japanese then, I continued to work through Japanese from zero, and I was in lesson 11, looking more at the formal and informal endings of the verbs in the present and the past tenses, positive and negative. And also then looking at the final compound katakana in the katakana, the second of the 3 Japanese writing systems. And it's this system which was introduced in this book in the series. Earlier on in the year when I was doing book 1, I learned the hiragana, the first writing system. Katakana is used mainly for loan words, of which there were some amazing examples again in this chapter, such as tissue for tissue and weru done for well done. The latter, like many loan words, rather difficult to recognise because of the way it's been Japanified, with additional consonants appearing and letter L's changing into R's and that sort of thing. As well as working through the textbook, I also was doing flashcarding of Japanese vocabulary. That's something that I've started to do very, very recently now, because I don't feel I'm internalising enough of the material I've gone through in the textbook. And I was listening to the Pimsleur audio course, although there was less of that last week because I wasn't out jogging, which is one of the times I listened to it, because of the fast. And while the fast gave me great concentration and I wasn't feeling hungry really most of the time, I did feel a bit more shaky on my feet, so obviously energy levels will be moving up and down. Apparently also it's good for the body's sort of self-regulation and insulin and so on. It can be good to have a change from the regular eating pattern, apparently. As I say, I'm not a doctor, but it was an interesting experiment. I thought I was really focusing in really well. I seemed to have a lot more time, partly because I wasn't preparing meals, perhaps, and having endless coffee breaks and so on. Because also on Saturday last week, a week ago now, I decided to go caffeine free, and that got mixed up with the headache, with the fasting, and then the illness at the beginning. And so I had sort of headaches from I don't know what source for the first couple of days, but they went, and that's something I'm keeping up with. I'm staying caffeine free for a bit longer. If you follow my vlogs and you see me making coffee or drinking coffee all the time, that might well surprise you. But those were the new methods I was using then. More of the same, a bit of experimentation, as I say, with more flashcarding again, and using the Goldlist method on the vocabulary acquisition side. As regards totals, I managed to do what I'd intended to do, so I did the 5 hours flat of Japanese, and I did 6 hours 40 minutes actually of Basque, so I actually overshot the target slightly with a Basque. It was a great first week. I was busy as well with the launch of my Russian webinar series and recruitment on that. We got a new Prime Minister, so I was breaking off to watch the news about that as well during the week, particularly in the middle of the week. And I tried my hand at plumbing when the toilet cistern conked out here at How to Get Fluent Tower. So I had to go from scratch, work out what to do, and I managed to mend it. It's amazing what you can do when you have to put your mind to it. And then at the end of the week, on Friday, I headed off by train to Oxford, where I was a student very many moons ago, to visit my sister, who's just moved there. And on the train, I was using the Asimil Japanese book, reviewing a couple of the chapters in that. There are 100 in the book altogether. I've worked through the first 20 so far, so I was looking at a couple of those. And this week, it's more of the same, basically, continuing with the same targets, and I'll be reporting back how this week has gone on Tuesday next week. So you've worked it out. Also on the channel, you may have seen I've republished a couple of vlogs I did last year about the Welsh Eisteddfod. It's a very exciting cultural festival, a great place to go if you're a Welsh learner and you want to practice, or you're interested in Welsh culture or minority and lesser used languages in general. So I've republished those to bring them up to the top here on the YouTube channel, and I'll also be putting them on the website with a bit of a description, and I'll build that out over time into a longer introductory article, I think, to the Eisteddfod. So you may have seen those on the channel and wondered what they were. That's the background. On Thursday, there'll be an interview with Chris Broholm from Actual Fluency, who's got a new project for those of you who like language learner events and want to try out something different. So that'll be coming up on the channel on Thursday. How's your language learning been going so far? How's it looking as we're in the final week now of July? Let me know in the comments below. Be great to hear from you. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for the vibe, think about a thumbs up, tickle that bell, and share the affair. Sayonara.